Constant consumption online will never work. Here's why. We are absolutely obsessed with not missing out. That is the culture that we have created right now. That is our modern day living. And where are most people? Well, we are on social media, sucked into a vacuum of a never-ending reel. 91 meters worth. The math equivalent on this is wild. Dr. J. Van Bavel, a professor of psychology and neuroscience at NYU, made the statement that the average smartphone user is scrolling through 300 feet of a news feed, which is the height of Statue of Liberty, every day. So have a think about that. 42.2 kilometers scrolled by your thumb in a year. Now imagine the garbage in there, like the arguments, the ads, the opinions, and really, ultimately, other people's priorities. If you look around right now, you can see that there are people who are not even looking where they're going. They're on their phone, quite happy to walk into you. Go to a restaurant and there are at least one family member sitting there on their phone, all hiding behind a mask of productivity, education, and entertainment, right? These are the pillars of why we go to social media. It is as if we spend so much time, our time, in these rubbish bins of social media giants scrolling for the shiny object that's going to make everything worthwhile. We're constantly looking for something. And that something is this magnetizing force enticing us in. Like when you think about when you get a notification, it hits so many of your senses. It's the sight, the sound, the feeling of that vibration. We get this spike of dopamine. But dopamine's not just the novel chemical or the pleasure chemical. It's also tied to the anticipation chemical. It's part of the uncertainty of what we're going to find that's in the design of these platforms, that every new reel has this unknown reward, or so we think. So there's a very much real void that calls us in, and it's our brain chemicals responding to it. And we are very much losing ourselves to it. The void is the gap. It's the absence of not knowing what it is. We can't quite name it. I don't know about you, but I pick up my phone and I'm constantly looking for something. Like I check the notifications. There's this pull towards wanting to be on the device. And we have to really ask, if we feel that, how much of it is a willingness to be there versus an addiction to be there? Because with the content you consume online, we end up with a deeper problem. With the content that we consume, we have to really ask ourselves, is that hour that we're going to put into a content series really going to help our businesses grow? Or will that 5th tarot card reading reveal the final master plan? I have seen so many tarot card readings in my feed that they're starting to contradict each other. So we have to really think about what we're trading in this exchange, because it's not good. I did an article recently where it was revealed that in the learnings that I was going through with how technology is affecting us, that 1 in 6 people, according to the World Health Organization, are feeling this silent epidemic of loneliness, and it's from our devices. The very things that are meant to connect us with the rest of the outside world are destroying us. So these are dark times, and we have to identify when we are in glutton consumption. I don't know, is it the 4 horses? Or you'll have to tell me in the comments below. Like, what is it when it comes to gluttony? Well, this is what's manifesting online. So it's the kind that captivates people for hours. This is what the gluttony consumption is. People fall into overconsumption, getting lost in their devices and not able to overcome it. So the world has now categorized its internet gaming disorder in the entertainment section. Like, there is a literal disorder coming about in the people that we see coming through and rising up in the next generation. That education also has its similar information overload, that anyone in business is absolutely felt to compulsively get this online education. But it's part of this void that's drawing us in. Productivity is another example where we have productivity paralysis or productivity addiction. I'm certainly guilty of that one, where we're trapped optimizing apps, systems, routines, and workflows instead of actually doing the things that are going to make all the difference. So we can tend to lean back and think, well, this isn't us. We've got this better approach to all of it. But as business owners, this does affect us, because we are smarter and more focused. But the thing is that we're human and we're susceptible to valuable content. Last week I was talking about the valuable content we create when we do a product launch, but it's the same thing that we have to be aware of, that we're entering these platforms thinking that's what we're going to get, but it's an absolute bingo. So how many times have you opened your phone, your laptop, or gone to do something productive, maybe follow up a message in business or check on an email, and then suddenly something catches your eye. A reel, a thread, a headline, you tell yourself it'll only take a second. And that's when the void calls you back in. So how can we do better? Well, we have to do conscious consumption. We must consciously move ourselves from a place of scattered energy, because that's what this is. It's like when you go onto a social media platform, it is absolutely scattered. That's the whole thing about it, is you don't know what you're going to get from moment to moment. And so if you really take the time to understand what I'm about to share, the gap between where you are and where you could be become very clear. One makes way for a life that's way more refined. The other one is mediocre. Most people will donate their time to this. It's a given, and it's brain rot. That's what it is. Let's call it what it is. You would not let strangers into your home uninvited, but the same rules apply to your feed and what you let into your mind. We cannot fight this. We cannot opt out. The information is so far evolved, and social media has a very real role in all of this. And you can think about some of the best aha moments or how you've come to realizations have probably come from the random scroll. But it is about knowing how to have a system that pulls you back from the void. Something that catches the good, filters the garbage, and allows you to move more towards what you want to actually do with your time. We know time is our most precious resource. So in order for our time to be more than just fed to the distracting beast, we have to be conscious about the ways in which we enter the void, because distractions will very much rot your mind. So think of it like a maze. We have 2 entry points when we go online. We enter via social media bingo or a specific reason to be online. When that nagging feeling gets us sucked into the void, we pour our time into this space. You cannot avoid the maze, but we need to know how to get out. You only need to pick up your phone and enter the void. So we need those tools available. So let's break down what are the 2 entry points. We start with the social media bingo. Whether we are there for productivity, entertainment, or education, the longer that we give our free time over to permission to scroll, the more we lose out on our time. We used to build skills, we used to do things in the background. Now people are mindlessly numbing themselves with the equivalent of the Statue of Liberty each day. But this does not feel like liberty. If you can't break the social media bingo and let people into your mind, then you have to think about what only happens when you just listen. If all you're doing is listening to other people, then you think these ideas are your own, and you risk losing your own voice to this perpetual bingo. The second way we enter the maze is when we're looking for something specific. I cannot tell you how many times I've been looking for something specific, I've been working on the newsletter and moving over to something specific, and I've forgotten why I'm there. So the best way to get yourself out of that is to return to where you were previously. But every time you enter this mode, you are giving your attention from focused to distraction. So we must know how to leave the maze. This is what allows you to enter the internet with intention. The best way to exit the maze is to start treating it like a doorway. You wouldn't let strangers into your home. Who are you letting into your home, or rather your mind? When I started in business, I wasn't sure how to do this. Everything felt urgent on social media. Everything felt like something I needed to learn. But over time, I've learned to keep the door shut and limit what comes through, because doing this has literally changed both my personal and professional lives. And I very much want this for you. So we cannot escape the internet, we know this. But it doesn't have to become a dumping ground for cheap hits of dopamine. Social media is a tool, and it does so many great things when it's done with purpose. So to become a conscious creator and avoid the social media crash diet that everyone's on, we have to know the 3 C's. These are the 3 C's that every creator needs. First, we have to catch. The time you spend on these feeds drains you. Don't believe me? Count and see how many ads are going past your mind as you scroll. And realize that adverts start with one particular thing. They're all targeting your problems. So no wonder we don't feel very good on social media. But catch has a double meaning, and you need both. The first meaning is to catch yourself in the act, realize that you're in the maze, and do your very best to not become one of those statistics. The second one is catch something that is vital in the mid-scroll. If you have a way of capturing things, catching things, and being able to save it, you can actually, in a way that you can actually return to it, catches how you allowing yourself to snap into awareness. It's when your brain gets that, okay, I'm going to save this, I know I'll be able to return to it. And sometimes that's enough to be able to keep moving because your mind has faith you'll return to it. The next category is categorize. So the next C is categorize. To get curious of your triggers, we need to be able to categorize what's going on. Have a think about the category of distraction versus free time. Which way did you enter the maze? And we have to look at whether distraction, when it comes to distraction, what are the thoughts that are going on? Because is it limiting or beneficial to your potential, what you're actually consuming? The reason this is so important is because it's our mental health that we're gambling away. There's a whole science to how to focus on your tasks and what happens in the brain when these things happen to us, when this distraction and media. But the far better position for you to be in is to be able to leverage your own patterns and be conscious of what's actually happening after you catch yourself in the maze. These are going to reveal the insights that are individual to you. You might be feeling that you need something, but you can find it in more constructive ways. So be curious about what drew you in and what you were trying to do before that moment. Because if you go back, it will reveal why you were there in the first place. So if you see reels that are worth keeping, save them under categories and put these insights into actual action rather than overwhelming your mind. Categories do not just organize the mind, they reveal connections, which gets us up to point number 3, C number 3. When you scroll endlessly, you're always at ground level, buried under where you are going and why you are going there. There is no sense to any of that. You have to move to the next level. So when you catch and categorize yourself out of that, you give yourself a connection to the bird's eye view of what's going on. When your ideas and categories start linking to each other, you stop seeing yourself as a passive consumer and start becoming a conscious one. You can see where you are drawn to and what you are building towards. This is why I love Obsidian so much, because you can see how your ideas connect to each other and create a bigger body of work that changes the way you think. Ideas gain power when they're put inside a system that you can return to, rather than the graveyard of scattered ideas that the online platforms put us in. If you take information and connect the dots, you are making sense of the awareness around, and you will grow and improve in those areas. It's pretty straightforward. You move from endless scrolling to conscious research. That's one of the things I learned from Dan Koh's 2-Hour Writer, that if you are able to be aware of your consumption, things do actually change for you. And you come from a place of category and connection, then your time on social media can be identified as free time social media bingo. And free time alone won't build the things you need to in order to achieve your goals. They might have really helpful tips, but if you are following a million different tips, it's really hard to know which one's going to work for you unless you break it down and try little ones. To be an online business owner, a real one, you have to realize that social media is going to be a very important part of that journey. The void will always be there, so we have to train our minds to be able to navigate how we're going to enter this space before it takes us over. Social media is engineered for us to have these feelings towards it, but you don't have to feed it. See, conscious choice is far greater of an achievement than influence despair that you trade your time for on these platforms. So this week, think about, as you enter those space, what is the time exchange you're doing? And when you're entering the maze, is it from a point of free time, social media bingo, or is it that you were there for something specific and learn how to bring yourself back from the void?